Hello, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar, 5 Ways to Run IT Like You Mean Business. I am Adam OBrien, and I'm the Product Marketing Manager here at SunView Software, and I will be hosting today's webinar. And I'm being joined by Andrezej Gadomski from Executive Service Management Consulting. Before we get started, I just have some brief housekeeping things I want to get out of the way. This webinar will be available shortly after its conclusion on demand on our channel, so if you, for whatever reason, miss any of it or want to cover over some points that we covered today, feel free to drop by our channel and check that out. Also, this webinar has a supplemental webinar, 4 ways to reduce costs and increase IT value with a modern service desk. So make sure to check that out. And also, if you do have any questions throughout the course of the webinar, go ahead and use the Ask a Question window to submit a question, and I will make sure that we take some time in our Q&A at the end of this webinar to answer those questions. And today's presenters, once again, I'm Adam, and I'm the Product Marketing Manager here at SunView, and I'm joined by Andrezej Gadomski. He is a senior specialist, specifically specializing in ITSM. He's recently worked on ITSM projects as the ITSM senior specialist at various universities and corporate organizations in Canada. This presentation that he's about to provide us is a summary of his observations and experiences during those engagements. His professional experience is in championing culture change and adopting IT best practices for higher education and manufacturing industries. He has an engineering degree and a master's degree in computer science. Throughout his university career, he has been a researcher, a faculty member, a manager, and the highest-ranking IT officer. He also does have ITIL V3 expert certification in service management and has over 40 years of experience in IT, with 25 years specifically in IT management. And Andrezej, good morning. How are you doing today?
Yes, good morning. Good morning, everybody. Welcome.
Good. Cool. So let's cover today's agenda. Andrezej will be showing us why IT is the business and the business is IT, followed by a key opportunity that your organization could take a look at in this aspect, and then 5 ways to run IT like you mean business, followed up by some recommendations and next steps that your organizations can make to kind of merge IT and the business, followed up finally by a Q&A where we'll cover any questions that you may have throughout the course of the webinar. So without further ado, I'm going to hand that off to Andrezej, and you're up.
Yes, good afternoon, everybody, again, and I hope that you are having good 45 minutes with us on the topic, which is always very interesting about you heard this many times. IT is the business, and the business is IT. Of course, this is about the transferring our culture of IT, which started years ago. And the roots of IT segregation, as we know, were created really at the time of the locked mainframe centers, with the people in the white coats, with the big glass windows and the doors separating users, customers, and business from the place of action. In other words, we can say that at the time it started to be customer separated from the business provider. And of course, you heard this as well probably before. Einstein said, if you continue to do the same thing over and over again and are expecting different results, this is a definition of insanity. We have just to figure out what to do to really do things differently. Usually, IT organizations are structured into 2 silos. They are application group and infrastructure group. In many cases, they do not work well together or sometimes not at all. They are like cats and dogs. They do not like each other. And of course, that is kind of historical thing which goes back to 1960s. And the problem is that the structure is not the way how we work. Its organization of IT is around technology, not around the way how we should work. When you think about this, IT is the only organization in many businesses which functions that way. Think about accounting. If you have a process accounts payable, you have a structure. If you have the same thing with accounts receivable, you have a structure. If you manage treasury or cash, you have a structure to that. They do not organize themselves around chart of accounts or logbox. And of course, today I'm going to try to bring you in this talk a journey of transforming your IT group's organization's culture from silo, which is when you can say, here is what we can do, so that's what you can get mentality, to the customer service-oriented focus on the partnership model that is based on collaboration, cooperation, and a business partnership. We will look at the drivers for making this transformation and the changes we need to make, how to make them, challenges, and what is next for us. Usually what's wrong is this what is around in this slide. There are challenges needed to be overcome with minimal attention was paid to evolving or emerging technologies, and technology skills were not kept up to current industry best practices. There was a lack of strategic focus and decision-making regarding technology. The roles and responsibilities in IT were unclear. The organizational culture was based on what technology could do, not on a customer satisfaction and customer values. There was no single point of contact provided for the work that was required or self-service capability for customers for better efficiency. Customers reached out to whoever they knew who can help them without following any processes. There were no meaningful metrics, process measurements, or reporting. Communication within the organization was really weak and sometimes not existent. There were no standardized processes and little process automation in IT, particularly for the managing the control of changes, managing the service failures, service degradations, and managing projects. This resulted in a low IT efficiency and effectiveness, and of course, lack of satisfaction. Our objectives in this project or this engagement were to really create a renewed focus on service delivery around the common objectives, which was the effective service delivery, which requires the coordination and the rationalization of IT services, which is in turn relies on the clarification and responsibilities between units that were delivering IT services. The objectives were to rationalize service offerings and responsibility for service providers, making it easier for users to acquire services. We needed to avoid duplication of competency centers for highly complex skills that are expensive to develop and expensive to maintain. And it was important to achieve greater level of technology and process standardization. Furthermore, we needed to employ enhanced communication processes as communication is our critical asset. We needed to achieve the following benefits: rationalization of service offerings to identify trailing edge services to be discontinued in favor of strategic services, processes and technology standardization to facilitate the rollout of new applications faster with fewer resources and ensuring greater interoperability between solutions, and enhanced communication to facilitate the addition of value-added benefits to organization. At the same time, when we were looking at this objective, I recommended for people to really think about the organizational mission and value statements. It's critical to understand for people what really we are doing and what is our mission. Our continual plan was really to progress towards renewing the focus of service delivery. Started with stabilizing the workforce, making sure then, of course, our workforce knows what to do and is prepared to support everything. We first think about the need to do the clarification of roles and responsibilities. A duplication of services delivery across the organization evolved over a period of time and has resulted in numerous service provider resources being at different locations, not utilized properly. The proximity to the client base provided for prompt attention to the client needs, but often create a mindset that is wholly focused on the local unit. There is an opportunity to streamline technology services delivery with associated cost savings by clarifying roles and responsibilities for a service provider functions, including a possible relocation of resources. Our plan was to really work with the stabilization, and as I was saying, this was a part of the role responsibilities, which was, of course, our people in the organizations that I work with. And the multiple times, of course, there was a job description, and these job descriptions, then they were rewritten, and they were the organization created a new standard job description with a job family description and defining core skills required. And of course that after the jobs were defined, incumbents were offered a plan for the transition. The transition was really as a decision by the person, by the team member from organization which was doing that, either choose the type of a work that person wants to do or stay in the work as he is doing. If somebody didn't feel that this is the work the person wants to do, in some organizations then there was a plan for leaving the organization properly as a separation opportunity, voluntarily separation opportunity program, which gave people a chance to do different things with their career. But at the same time, of course, the extensive training was offered, and at the same time for the people which are senior members of the organization, the voluntary retirement plan program was offered, not for the purpose of retiring people, but to making sure that it is we gain rather some certainty around the intentions of our more senior workforce. The training and the development plan was quite intensive and included a training for the new roles and the new tasks. Customer service training, project management training, service management as an ITIL training. Our organization has certified, multiple of them certified 100% of the staff and management, including in some cases CIO and senior directors. We provided opportunity for each employee to acquire and demonstrate the required knowledge, skills, and qualifications to fit to a new role. The investment in people, it was quite critical. It was not enough just to reorganize the organizations, but it was needed to support them by senior administration who provided a significant financial commitment to this program. The key of this was leveraging the expertise of available consultants by bringing them to the organization and creating an environment called two-in-a-box model. Then this experts were working hand in hand together with employees on some project, on some delivery, and then, of course, passing the knowledge and preparing our staff or staff of the organizations to fulfill their roles on their own when the contractors were gone. The service provider in this organization introduced a new revised workplace expectations centered on the effective service delivery, including establishing core working hours, providing continual coaching and development for staff, and the performance assessment, including clarity and defining expectation and objectives of the job, and of course linking to the strategic objectives of the organization. Personal development planning mapped out their careers, plans, and opportunity, making sure that everybody is on their career trajectory properly and hopefully for long-term in satisfaction. The new set of core skills was established and the training provided for the business process modeling, project management, quality assurance, information modeling, IT service management, customer service orientation, and a lot of other things. Then in some organizations, trainings were between 3 months to 6 months periods. Collaboration versus silos. This was quite important change, and this, of course, the silos we discussed was coming from a long time ago, and then we wanted just to make sure that the IT and the service providers are working together with the business, and they are dropping these walls which are in between. And of course, when IT stepped out from its boundaries and work on the proper metrics in the teams which were functionally working with the business as a business analyst, system analysts, and then developers, and they were collocated at their different location, allowing for the free flow of communication and the knowledge sharing required to successfully deliver the projects which they were working on. And of course, service management was the enabler of achieving that. Our core competencies which we were looking on, which were critical as we recognized for these organizations, they were really the customer service, ensuring that the customer has a positive experience in all their interactions with the service provider, in this case of IT. But of course, this relates to any organization which is providing services. Time management, this is critical part as well around the communication as well, that it really ensures that all tasks are completed with time effectively and efficiently. Collaboration and teamwork means that they are no silos, and they are really people are working together within the organization, within the business, within the service provider together to support business needs and business requirements. Working on across departmental and across divisional teams became the norm. People felt that finally we're talking together, finally we're sharing information. Our employees, they were really result-oriented. They wanted to make sure that they're achieving this what was set as our strategic goals, and then designed for us to deliver in a timely fashion. And then employees needed to understand that the client was setting the priorities. The work which we were doing was really addressed as a done when business was satisfied. Our clients are partners in the work we do, and we need to provide regular project updates to them. And of course, the final, last but not least, is the continuous improvement, which requires employees to participate in the recommendation of new tasks, new processes, or create efficiency and increase effectiveness for the department. They need to demonstrate initiative to seek out opportunities for the self-development and learning. This slide is really here just for some people which are not really maybe like seeking the ideas of what's really the framework ITIL, what are the benefits and what we can do, because majority of our work was around the service management based on ITIL. Then of course this is the benefit is to deliver the single, well-defined, scalable, repeatable, and documented framework. It allows us to define services. It allows us to define roles and responsibilities clearly, to know what we are doing and who is doing what. Delivers the and reduce and justify the cost of our operations, and helps with the governance, which many organizations I found don't really pay really a good attention to this. Improve the information communication flow. This is really critical and important, and it gives you the most benefits when you're doing this. Defines and measures processes, and gives you a chance to really use the continual improvement of your services, and improve the relationship within the organization of service provider within IT, as well outside with the business. And I found as well that after these activities, business has a better trust of this what IT can do and wants to do. This is, I would say, it's one of the important slides in this deck, which really tells you what is expected and how do we do it, what are the steps. And I'm not saying this is the only way of doing it, but this is the way that it works in many organizations, many places. You know, you usually start with the knowledge transfer, with some training campaign. And of course, some organizations are doing very simple, some are doing very comprehensive or very extensive. You know, it depends of your appetite and your organizational structures and abilities and funding and all kinds of things like that. And in some organizations, as I was saying before, all staff was trained, including the directors and CIO. And this was critical that we were able, during the training, and sometimes, you know, the ITIL training is 3 days. When I organized this, I offered them a 5 days training when we added material, we added time for good discussions, we added time for culture shift, we added time to make this clear to people that this is not about certification. This is about the knowledge. Even though the certification was optional, people took it this anyway, and all of them passed the exam. The communication was the most essential and most important part of our activities, because without that, it is, I would compare that this is almost like you're trying to govern a single country with multiple official languages, different currencies, and unfortunately, even without common constitution. And then what has happened? Then no one will speak the same language, and of course, you cannot organize. But once we started to have the same language, we were able to communicate. I got a lot of good responses from individuals saying, this is exactly what we wanted. This is exactly what it is. This makes us speak common language and achieve common good for the organization. Then, of course, this knowledge allows people to do assessment of current environment. There's process, there's activities, what they are doing, how they are doing. And what was fantastic, what I was observing, that they wanted to do this by themselves. And you see, this is the first win. When you do something and people are owning that, you have a chance that it will stick. They will be yours, they will be theirs, and it will stick with the organization. And then, of course, when there was that willingness to do it, we created the selection of process that we wanted to do. Of course, one of them in some organizations, I would say, was starting usually with the services. People want to understand which services they do, what they do, how they do. Then, of course, service catalog was the one, change management was, incident management, problem management, various groups. But, you know, you have to pick what is right for you, and then select the process to improve. You pick one and you go with one. If you have a multiple groups, as one organization had, they have a multiple groups and they had the multiple processes, and then each group was divided into 5 small subgroups, and they were working on the element of that process to make sure that it works. And I will be describing this later in my presentation. And of course, we executed the plan, and you must remember that you have to celebrate the success of group. Even if the success is small, you have to make a recognition just to keep the momentum going and make people interested to continue your journey. And this is what I wanted just to mention, that how we started developing processes. Of course, we first made the assessment, then we define the process, then design the process, document the process, went with the documentation, and then was controlled by defined governance. And of course, this is what I was mentioning earlier, that we had these groups which were working. In one of our organizations, we had 5 working groups, and for each process, and they were doing, one of them policy, another one was working on process development, tools, requirements, documentation, and implementation. And each group was working on the basis of having the template based from ITIL v3 2011, but with a full ability to modify this to be adopted and adapted to the organizational needs of the institution. And the benefit of this was there was their work which they were sharing with the other groups, and they were assessing together if this is what is happening, how is this going to done, how they are going to benefit. And after approvals, after a lot of brainstorming and a lot of discussions, the final documents were presented to other employees in the organization, and finally afterwards approved to the leadership team in the organization for finalization, and was being scheduled for implementation, and of course always with celebration to make sure that we are doing right things with right people. And then we did the tool selection. This was a pretty quick situation when we had already part of the work done during our development of the process. We did, of course, we collected the requirements for the tool. Then we reviewed the tools available, and of course we used the recommendations from Gartner, Forrester, Infotech, and found what is right, what is wrong. Everybody in the department was welcome and enabled to participate in this. At the end, of course, there was a short list selected, and then RFQ prepared, and the decision was made which tool to implement. And again, we went go live, and what next? Next was celebration again. Then, of course, there was a lot of celebration at this organization. And, of course, continual improvement. I need to stress that you have to continue watching your services, making sure who is the owner of the service, making sure that service catalog reflects your services. I have some organizations that they, first of all, don't know they have services. On the other hand, if I have organizations where they have services, the catalog doesn't reflect this, what they have, and quite frequently there is more than one owner, or there's no owner at all, and then there are some, questions what to do. And the other thing is, look on the methodologies that can help you. And for manufacturing now, we have this lean methodologies which are good, and we're using this as well. Agile was developed when Scrum and sprints to Kanban, and then working on this to help us to improve services and make this easier for all of us. The other part is really I want to share with you what are our really lessons learned and what worked and what were challenges. Employee empowerment. Empowerment was critical. People feel that they are being listened and they are part of activities. They are not like sitting in the cubicles, not engaged. They are really empowered. They are given a chance to pick the role. They are being asked what to do. The other part is the stakeholders. We look into business. We look into people. We are making sure that people are doing this, what the stakeholders are looking for, and a lot of partnership. A lot of things that we are working together. We have a strong partnership with the various organizations, various groups within the IT or service provider. For example, a role of service desk was alleviated as the partner, which is our external ambassador for the organization, and of course is the face of IT. And then the other part was, of course, the momentum. We didn't want it to lose the momentum. We didn't want it to, have a stop and then people losing the interest. Then we are always encouraging them to do new things and then have occasion to, again, celebrate something. And various organizations have fabulous ideas how to do that. The other part was the challenges, old habits. We don't want really change. We say about the change is good, but then just don't change me. Then, of course, these old habits were coming to us as well. Distractions for our day-to-day operation, from the things that were happening to us as either major incidents or some other projects or criticality of some projects, and pushing this. The other one was the low expectations. Business didn't really think that we can kind of deliver that, and they will be, not sure we can, or are we okay, or we can do it or not. And then, of course, the other part was the funding. And, of course, the funding was and continues to be challenged for everybody. I think you don't have too much money in the budget, and I think you don't have a situation that you would, be in a situation not being distracted by the funding. But there is some cases that you can help the funding for the organization as well as you can do sometimes a little bit less a little bit more for a little bit less. The summary which I would like to share with you, I think you probably will recognize my summary from the 4 piece of design, which is my favorite topic, and I love that. People, processes, partners, products. You see, another one is the passion. And of course, this everything supports our service management. And one of my customers, when we're talking, said, you know, the success really comes from our people we become after all this training, the processes we use, and partners we work with, the products we deliver, and the passion we demonstrate for the work we do. And I added, I said, this is fantastic. That's why I kind of included here. But at the same time, remember about another P, which I should not mention, procrastination. It's not allowed. When we do everything, we should consider really that everything we do is innovation. And I heard that before, that really we should consider innovation over the information. This is why I would say CIO these days should transform from Chief Information Officer to Chief Innovation Officer. And I would say this is on a high level, with my 30 minutes allowed, something that I wanted to share with you, how many organizations, and it doesn't really matter if this is higher education, is this public sector, is this corporation, or even a small business. All these elements of, first of all, looking after your people. Secondly, organizing them using the processes which they believe in and they deliver. And work strongly with your partners and the products which they can offer. And of course, what the important thing is, you have to have passion, and your team as well. Thank you very much.
Cool. Thank you so much for covering all that, Andre. I know I got a ton of great valuable information from your experience. And that leaves us with kind of wrapping things up. I've got a few things planned. First of all, with all that taken into account and what we're about to cover, I always like grabbing Gartner quotes from their research papers, and this one stuck out especially to me this week as I was doing my research and studying up. And they go on to state that a cross-enterprise perspective on information and processes supported with technology helps break down data ownership silos, sends information flows up and down management change and across functions, and drives optimum decision-making. And that's from their 360-degree approach to IT cost and value optimization paper. And that leads us directly into wrapping up with 5 ways that you can run IT like you mean business. The first way is going to be you're going to want to align IT and business strategies. By aligning IT goals with business goals, you get a culture of total buy-in across an organization, and it occurs as everyone is now a stakeholder in the business success, as opposed to siloed operations where you're responsible for your team goals, and if that's met, then everything's good to go. A couple ways you could do that. One, you can optimize business processes through process automations. So take everyday simple tasks and operations that you know are going to be done consistently, and turn those into automations, or at least automate as much as you can to kind of help workflow and take the pressure and time spent on those recurring tasks off the plate of your team. And you can also optimize business models, and you can learn to leverage. I know a big thing lately here has been digital workplace and how to handle that in that transition. So empowering your organization's employees and workers to really take full advantage of utilizing things like mobility with the current smart devices, and working on the go and when they need to can really help kind of stimulate the workflow and help you further align those strategies. Second off is you want to at least consolidate IT infrastructure as best as you can. Today's organizational requirements need IT to be flexible and proactive, and this can't be obtained if IT has to deal with a multitude of tools to accomplish the goals. If you're consolidating your tools, this helps to keep IT agile and proactive, And doing things like such as using a unified ITSM platform is a step in that direction. A couple ways that I know I'm a big fan of. Our team uses Slack here, as well as majority of our company, to kind of streamline real-time organizational communication. That just opens instantaneous talk back and forth and really helps to stimulate our workflow and removes any kind of roadblocks that might be there for communication. You also avoid having to have 3 or 4 different platforms of communication where you never can remember which platform to use to contact a certain team, and that just ends to roadblocks and time wasted on trying to get a hold of the people that you need to. And also another thing that you can do is standardize tools. So if you end up using tools such as any of the Adobe suite, you can standardize that across your organization, so that way you don't have to deal with running into compatibility issues, and hopefully with the idea of minimizing the amount of tickets and issues that you would receive because of lack of cross-compatibility between platforms. And the third way is to collaborate across the business. With IT working with everyone in an organization, your IT teams will be able to see the daily pains and issues firsthand and be proactive about resolving issues and problems that affect the business instead of reactively dealing with the one-off issues. Couple quick ways that could be done is by instilling an intuitive self-service option, and also having a way to easily create knowledge-based articles that are based off common issues that the enterprise runs into, and that way you're making content and help for your enterprise that is actually needed, and it can take the focus off things that maybe aren't necessarily needed and keep things streamlined. And the fourth way is tracking performance. Having defined and even shared KPIs across an enterprise provides complete transparency across an organization and allows for everyone to work towards that common goal. Having things such as easy-to-access dashboards for your organization where that holds KPIs and tracks numbers that are set for your enterprise's success can go a long way to help everyone stay on top of where you currently are and where you're heading. And also a centralized location to display organizational updates and notifications is also a huge key. If no one knows where they're going, they can't measure how to get there. They can't figure out how to get there, and then once success reaches, you don't know how to go back and measure that success. By making sure that everyone knows where you're at all times, then you can then move forward and plan for future successes. And finally, that actually leads us into the fifth way, is to celebrate your victories. There's no point in tracking goals if victories are not celebrated. And I know in my past experience with my help desk, even the smallest of things that may seem trivial at first, once they're celebrated as team, it kind of builds momentum. You got positive vibes going through, and you start to build on that success and continue to make that upwards trend. I love celebrating with my team because anything is worth a high five to me, and that goes a long way towards keeping everything moving in the proper direction. So, and with that, a couple recommendations that I can personally provide as far as an ITSM platform for your IT team. The unification of that is key. So ITSM platforms that support your entire business is obviously something that I would recommend moving towards. It eradicates any kind of multiple sources or inputs and streamlines your support. There's nothing worse than having to deal with 3 or 4 and 5 different applications just to get the same outcome. So if you can compact that into one unified platform, you're saving time, effort, and hopefully support at the end of the day. And it allows you to leverage that platform for complete visibility across the enterprise. You also want to look for an ITSM platform that has modules designed to fit your business needs. So this not only supports your IT team, but also your business processes such as HR. Maybe you have a warehouse that you need to track specific things in the warehouse. So basically codeless configurations that match your needs on the fly. It can be quickly deployed to support any process that you need either now or going forward as well. And finally, you want to look for an ITSM platform that supports automations, reporting, and persona dashboards. By automating processes, we touched on that just a few seconds ago, you save time on commonly done tasks, and then takes the pressure off your workforce and allows you to focus on maybe more immediate issues that require more hands-on. And then also, as far as reporting and persona dashboards, we touched on it earlier too, but if you're tracking performance, you want to make sure that your entire team can see where you're at And so you can make adjustments and plan for how to hit your goals moving forward. And persona-based dashboards allow you to kind of uniquely tailor those metrics to specific parts of your enterprise while still maintaining a high visibility across the entire organization. And then finally, at the end, with all these into consideration, SunView has done an excellent job at figuring out, kind of what we're looking for in terms of how to merge that IT and the business parts of an organization, and that's really strived and hit with ChangeGear. So some of the biggest things that they've done and we have done is integrated line of business modules, which we touched on the importance of just a few seconds ago, as well as, it's grounded in ITIL-based processes and provides the coast configurations of persona-based dashboards, as well as a responsive design self-service to really help leverage the cross-enterprise platform that is needed to help teams keep things streamlined and moving forward at the proper place. Finally, that kind of resolves things for us here. If you do have any questions that you wanted to reach out to either Andre or myself, our emails are here, and this slide deck will also be available on our SlideShare channel, as well as the webinar will be available shortly after its conclusion if you want to follow up with us or have any additional questions. And that leads us to our current Q&A. And Andre, I know I do have, I think I saw one or two creep in here. I think this one's for you. You had mentioned that ITIL improves the relationship between the business and IT. Can you elaborate on this?
Sorry, what was that?
You mentioned that.
Yeah,
you mentioned that ITIL improves the relationship between the business and IT. Can you elaborate on that or give any specific examples that you've had in your time?
Yeah, sure. This is really important when people are following the best practices of ITIL, and they involve the business in that, then of course you create a structure with business likes it, and then the way how you are communicating and the way how you are presenting your processes and involve in that your business, that business see the structure, business sees their relationship, and the business sees the benefit for them. In many organizations at the same sessions when we had the training and discussions, other functional units from the organization were sitting at the same table, and they were able to discuss this more freely and understanding what these sites are talking about. Plus, of course, when you have a situation, as you mentioned as well, Adam, about the importance of metrics, about your critical success factors, and about the KPIs, and you start this presenting, and you are proving that this is what you're doing is right. And the other part which ITIL brings is business relations management, and this is the part which is critical for a person to being liaison between service provider and a service recipient or service somebody who is paying for the service, to understand what is happening, because sometimes metrics may be not reflecting exactly what is happening with the business satisfaction and how business is receiving. I've seen a situation that everything on a service level management where the metrics looked perfect, but there were some situations then really customer was not happy. And with the business relations manager, situations like this can be quickly captured and very quickly resolved. I hope this is what would cover. If not, of course, I can offline to talk with that person more.
Perfect. And I think I've got one more question here. Someone brought in, how does ChangeGear help to better define user roles and responsibilities within the organization? I think one of the easiest and quickest ways that we've seen companies kind of go this route is with the persona-based dashboards. So you could build out specific KPIs and measurements to track based off teams or perhaps roles within the organization. It's a quick mouse click to switch between those roles too as well, and that really provides kind of a bird's eye view at a first glance of what the platform has as far as metrics, as well as it allows you to drill in further into into the tickets or in any of the issues or problems that may be contributing to particular slides and KPIs or any improvements. So that is there. And if you have any more questions, obviously you can feel free to reach out to me, and I'll be more than happy to dig deeper into that. And then finally, Andre, you do some work with ESMC, and I think you have some stuff that you want to outline.
Yes, and of course I wanted just to share with you that the ESMC is a consulting and training organization which is based in Waterloo, Ontario, Canada, and offers services with either as well over the phone or in discussions as well on site, and it delivers service management trainings mostly for the public sector, for universities, for school boards and colleges, as well as for the organizations which are corporate manufacturing, and has a really clear understanding about the differences in the culture between organizations which are academic and versus the ones which are more like a manufacturing or corporate. With the university environment, I have 40 years experience, and I covered the whole thing with being academic, being administrator, being technical level person at really between two continents. I was partially in Europe for 10 years, and then other 30 years in Canada, over 30 years here in Canada. And of course, I'm happy to talk about any of the issues which are related to the ITSM. I'm a member of ITSMF USA, as well board member of the ITSMF Canada, which is not-for-profit organization, which I welcome everybody and advise to join that organization if you're not the one of. And of course, you can contact me anytime with any question you like, and I like to share. I think you'll see that I have a bit of passion to this material. Okay? All the best, and thank you very much for attending and staying with us.
Cool. Thank you so much, Andre, and thank you everyone to attending this webinar. If you want to follow up with us, you can find our social media links here on LinkedIn, on Twitter, and Facebook, and then feel free to email into my email that we saw earlier, aobrien@sunviewsoftware.com, with any questions. This webinar, again, will be available shortly here after this conclusion, and thanks so much for spending some time with us this afternoon, and have a great day.
Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us.